Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another edition of Let's Talk Broncos. Starting on time, without one missing member. I don't know if that's a coincidence or I don't know what that situation is, but going live straight at 6 with a missing member. You guys can connect the dots. I don't know. I've been in here for a little bit, just hanging out, chilling, and I'm excited to be back, though. That's one thing I have to say right off top. Zach, excited to be back. It feels like this week without a podcast, it feels more like a month. It really does.
It's been too long. I've been itching to get back on the show, especially after, I do those instant reactions, which I absolutely love. Everybody check us out Saturday night, by the way. But, there's things I'll say that like I watch the game back and I'm like, oh, I was wrong there. I wish I had another show to correct that. But so I'm glad to be back and talking Broncos with you. And I've been working a lot too, so I've been missing a lot of shows. I've been itching to be back here.
Yeah, no, Zach, I said it feels like a month. Zach, it probably feels like a year.
It's been too long.
Zach has been out. No, happy to have you in the full swing of things too, back at it. I mean, it's not a better time for you to be back in the full swing of things here with Let's Talk Broncos, with how important these games are right now too. Like, this is huge Broncos game, Zach. Massive excitement in the air. I feel it. A little nervousness too. I'm not going to sit there and lie. A little nervous about the Broncos, but overall, just super excited about everything. Just before we get into, what to watch for in the game, everything like that, just give me your vibes about this Broncos team. How are you feeling?
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried for sure. But I also think, just because things went really south in that Chargers game, I don't think we should throw the lessons out the window from the previous month. And now, granted, the fact they were getting away with ugly wins is problematic in its own right. But this is a team with that sort of, I don't want to say like championship medal, but winning medal. Like they know how to win games, which it sounds stupid, but it is meaningful. I think especially when you're trying to dig out of a kind of losing culture in a rut like the Denver Broncos are. So yeah, it's just I think they'll still be able to right the ship. You want to see them playing better, but the reason the Broncos are in the lead right now, and they're at what are they 9-6, and the Bengals are at 7-8. When the Bengals might have more talent or whatever, is because the Bengals have consistently found a way to lose games this year. When the Broncos have consistently found a way to win games. So vibes are a little down, but I was looking at the crazy parallels to the 2015 team. That team lost back-to-back games to put itself on the brink of maybe missing the playoffs in their second to last game of the regular season, which was against the Bengals. I think it was at home though. The primetime game, whole nation watching. The prior week they had lost 34-27 in a second half collapse. And then that team goes on to win the Super Bowl. And I don't think this team will do that, but I didn't think the 2015 team would do that. And so I guess point being, it feels down right now. That was an ugly game, but stuff can change so rapidly. And it could go down in the dumps. I'm well aware of that too, but I don't know.
I mean, if we're being honest, it wasn't like the ugliest game of all time. It was dramatic in the way it ended, but a dramatic finish means that you played the game close. Like, the bad vibes are because the Broncos played it close. That, if we're being honest, it wasn't like, I feel like people are talking about it like it was the most disgraceful game we've ever seen in our lives. Meanwhile, in that first half, I was sitting there watching Harbaugh face against Sean Payton, and it was electric. It was amazing. And it just so happened that the Broncos had the lead in that at part of the game where all Broncos fans were very enthused, but they ended up losing. I don't know, like, if necessarily I'm like the lowest of all time losing to a good Chargers team away. I just don't feel that way. I don't know. Like, if you were to tell me, yeah, the Broncos have lost two good teams this year, but they've lost to good teams, and it kind of puts in perspective, I think, of where the Broncos are. But are the Bengals that much better than the Chargers or the Broncos? I think a lot of people are looking at the high-end talent on that team. I don't necessarily think people are looking at, okay, the roster. It's different. I think if you were to average out the grades of the entire offense and defense, you would come to a similar grade. They just have a lot more star power than the Broncos have. They have more A-plus level players.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have 3 big stars. You know, they've got a receiver that has a great chance at winning the Triple Crown. They've got a quarterback that if the record was better, he'd be in the MVP talks. And they've got a guy who might end up as the NFL sack king. And they're still 6-8, 7-8, or whatever. So to your point about, the Broncos are beating some of these bad teams, but the teams ahead of them in the standings, they're consistently losing to. And I think it's a fair critique of, where this team is at this point. They're not, they don't have like a signature win or anything, but the Bengals are one of those problematic teams. And I think people have been mad at national analysts, but a take I've consistently heard from national analysts about the Broncos, and I think it's honestly pretty accurate. I don't know what that's saying, man. I wouldn't point to that.
I don't know what that means. No, anybody who's anybody knows exactly what that is. Anyway, continue.
I totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. That totally derailed me.
Oh, you were talking about national analysts, people being mad at them.
Oh, yeah.
The
Broncos have won games because they've kind of just let bad teams self-destruct in front of them. The Bengals are one of those teams that's been self-destructing all year. And I get the concern, but this is also the exact type of team they've beat all year and the exact type of game they've won all year. And even in some big spots. Like I think about the Colts game. That's another, I think that's the perfect example. And Joe Burrow is different than Anthony Richardson, but those teams have been consistently shooting themselves in the foot all season, just in different ways. And in the same way, the Broncos didn't really show up to play that day and then ended up still winning 31-13 in blowout fashion is kind of why although I'm definitely have some anxiety for this game, I more so have confidence in the Broncos.
Fair enough. You mentioned not having a what is the word you used? A signature win. If the Broncos go out there and beat this Bengals team by a good margin, is this considered a signature win?
I think so. And the signature win things also, you ultimately need a win in the record books, but if you don't have the final, that Chiefs game, they played perfectly until the last half fraction of a second. I think they proved that they could go into Arrowhead and beat, the team that's probably right now the Super Bowl favorite. Ultimately it's not a signature win, but I think this team can get up and beat a team that's better than them. I don't think that would happen against Buffalo, but it could maybe happen in that first round of the playoffs. Hopefully we're getting to have that conversation down the line. There's some real matchup concerns I have in this game for sure. I think Bo is going to have to revert to his pre Colts form or pre Browns form rather. They need some breaks, but I think the Broncos will figure it out after the 10-day breather.
Fair enough. So with all that being said, what is your what to watch for this game? What is the main thing you're looking at as something that we should all be looking at for this game? What's your take there, Zach?
Something that LTB Muse is talking about right here. What are these linebackers looking like in coverage? These past 2 weeks, they've been the biggest liability for the Denver Broncos. The Riley Moss thing has gotten a lot of attention, but every game when I go back and look at it, or not every game, but these last 2, the big problem for the Denver Broncos in coverage were the inside linebackers. Justin Sternad was, I think, allowed 6 of 7 or 7 of 7 this past week when targeted. And then the week before it was something similar. I'll have it right here. Cody Barton against Anthony Richardson here. When Anthony Richardson threw it, Cody Barton or Justin Sternad, he was 6 of 7 for 101 yards and 4 first down conversions. No turnovers. That's a guy who he had 13 completions that game. 7 of them came against the linebackers, and then he only had 1 incompletion on those plays. And then the very next week, it was the exact same thing. I'm worried the teams with the Chargers, I'm worried the teams have kind of realized that's the weak point of the Broncos defense. Yeah, against the Chargers, LA went, this is throwing out the linebackers, 9 of 9 for 107 yards and 7 first down conversions. So that's, 13 conversions over the last 2 weeks and only 1 incompletion forced. And they're averaging, 10 plus yards per reception. And again, they're not really dropping any. So they're averaging dang near 10 yards a target when they want to victimize these linebackers in coverage. And that was with Stone Smart and freaking Kamani Vidal. Okay. Not Chase Brown, who's been tearing up the league in recent weeks as kind of a pass catching first back, and Mike Gesicki, who is a limited tight end, but the limitations aren't as a receiver. He's kind of one of those weird, like receiver,
he's a
tight end hybrids. Yeah. He's like a move guy. So, and I bet the Broncos are smart enough to try to avoid their linebackers being in those matchups too much. But I think it's merged as the Achilles heel of this defense. And I think opponents are going to keep prodding at it until this offseason when the Broncos can make some serious roster adjustments.
So I definitely think the linebackers were their biggest issue this week. I also think, though, like when you, Zach, go back and watch that Chargers game, a lot of that, too, was Jim Harbaugh had these guys guessing every single play. Did a masterful job of keeping the linebackers on their toes. Is it run? Is it play action boot? Is it a screen, a tight end screen? Like just constantly keeping linebackers guessing on what their responsibility is on a down-to-down basis. That's one thing that I don't necessarily think, while this Bengals team is absolutely going to be able to score points, I think that the Chargers game with Jim Harbaugh, their big formations, 2 tight ends, fullbacks in the game, you have more responsibility on your linebackers in that matchup than the Cincinnati matchup. The Cincinnati matchup, I think, is more going to be on your DBs. Now, that's still not to say, like, hey, they can't look at these Broncos linebackers and say that they're not very good. I'm just looking at it just from a X and O standpoint and what the Chargers are trying to accomplish when they're out on the field versus the Cincinnati Bengals team. It is taking advantage of these linebackers, and you saw it. Harbaugh was masterful at it. But this kind of brings me right into my what to watch for. You mentioned a little bit, but it's just so, okay, the Broncos have Riley Moss coming back this next week. Do we see the Broncos scheme and what they like to run change a little bit in this game? That's my big thing. I felt the Broncos played a lot more zero coverage, played a lot more straight man-to-man when they had a cornerback in there of Riley Moss's caliber, and you could trust Riley Moss and Patrick Surtain to live on the outsides and play really well. So my big what to watch for is just how much Van Joseph changes his scheme now with Riley Moss back in for this game compared to what we saw when he was out.
Yeah, kind of just commented about it with Carmelini. But he really, him and Surtain and Jaquan have enabled them to play the style of defense they want to play. Against the Chargers, the pass rush was still getting home. They pressured Herbert on 53% of his dropbacks. That was the highest number. I didn't check it after Saturdays and Sundays games, but after Thursday night, it was the highest number of the past 3 weeks. So they created a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert. It just didn't feel like that, in part because Herbert was playing out of his dang mind and was shaking it off effortlessly. Yeah, but also he was able to find wide open receivers or consistently open receivers pretty easily downfield. You're not going to have those easy answers as frequently with Riley Moss out there. If he's anything like the Riley Moss we saw pre-injury, which is something I'm a little worried about just because it was a lower body injury he missed time with. And, is that movement at the same level we saw it at?
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. I do have to again say that it's a completely different matchup, like just in what the defense's responsibilities are and what they're worried about mindset wise, what the game plan looks like, what coaches are sitting there giving them as key talking points, and what they're focusing on this week against a Chargers team and a Bengals team. These teams are very different in how they execute their offense and stuff like that. Both effective in different ways. Like imagine the Chargers did all of that with Ladd McConkey as a rookie being like their best guy as a receiver, not even close. When they start getting another guy involved, it could be really spooky out there. but yeah, I don't know. It is going to be interesting. They're going to score a lot of points for sure. I think in this matchup you're going to see. I mean, Riley Moss helps a ton, as I said. I also think this is a better chance for your linebacker or for your edge rushers and defensive linemen to actually get home as well. You mentioned they got pressure, and you mentioned some reasons why. I think even more is what I was saying with everything Harbaugh was doing, keeping people guessing, keeping people at bay. Like, that is what they do down there. So, yeah, no, interesting nonetheless. You're going to see polar opposites, good on both, but polar opposite different styles there, which is going to be interesting. So, do you want to move in the Bulls, Zach, or does Bree have a what to watch for that we should mention?
Yeah. Breeze, what to watch for. Let me read this. I'm trying to translate this. Well, the Broncos even should have a bounce back. Okay. She thinks that this is a bounce back opportunity for the Broncos. Really, as a whole, she's highlighting, this defense having some rough games can bounce back. They got a national spotlight against this Bengals team. This is a good, spot for them to prove themselves, show that they're still the elite defense they once were. And then on the offensive side of things, this is probably their easiest matchup of the season. Maybe I'm over. I mean, the Saints were kind of giving up in week 7. That's probably right there with it. But certainly one of their easiest matchups of the season. I really think, a lot of the offense operation in terms of I don't know. I think Bo Nix was a big problem against the Chargers and in that comeback and his inability to in that spot. And we've seen him do it before, but in that spot, he wasn't ready to kind of expand past the checkdowns and the short dump offs. And I'm worried that's a result of, having multi-interception games against the Colts and Browns and, maybe being a little gun shy, but against this defense in this spot with playoffs on the line, Broncos can't afford for him to be gun shy. The defense could have a great performance and the Bengals could still put up 30 because they're that potent in offense. He's going to have his fair share of victories. And I think he's more than capable of it. But he's a rookie. We keep defending him by saying he's a rookie. Well, part of it, him being a rookie, is that his play is probably going to be a little more inconsistent. There are some things that could potentially stump him. Louis Anarumo, for as bad as that defense is, something he is so heavily praised for is like his game planning ability. Well, this is a spot where maybe you're treating it like a playoff game a bit, because for the Bengals, it is where you're going to maybe break out a more opponent specific or player specific game plan. And I think Bo Nix has shown some weaknesses. Anarumo's smart enough to exploit those. The Bengals just don't really necessarily have the pieces to. So that whole hodgepodge is kind of what I'm taking Breeze what to watch for as.
Okay. No, I think that's super fair. Just looking for the bounce back. I mean, I think a lot of this will lead right into our what to watch for, or at least for me. I don't know what yours is, Zach. I'm positive right now. I'm still not on the down and out at all with this Broncos team. Like I keep saying, it's all about perspective. When you're in it right now, I totally understand everybody, me included, during the game, just so irritated. But when you actually look at the grand scheme of the season, the Broncos are dealing with house money in comparison to expectations on the year. They've exceeded expectations. They're playing better than their roster should or may indicate. And that I'm just positive at this moment. Every other win is great news. It's icing on the cake. It's not eating at me anymore. That's at least what I'm trying to remind myself of.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The Dolphins are the team I'm worried about right now. Obviously the Bengals could put themselves in a good position with a win, but they've got the Steelers next week who are reeling, but they've had no problem beating up on the bad teams this season. That was the game where Russ had a damn near perfect passer rating for as flawed as he's looked recently. So I feel fairly good there that, either the Broncos will win one of these next two or the Bengals will lose one of those next two. The Dolphins are the team I'm worried about right now. The Broncos can't find a way to win one of these two, but they got help over Christmas. Chiefs locked up the 1 seed. They're definitely going to be playing.
I don't want to get too far into the future, but what are even the odds the Chiefs start their guys to end the year?
I think there's a somewhat decent chance, just because with them playing that weird Wednesday game, and then having the bye, the gap between their last game and their next game will be if they were to rest everyone week 18 would be 25 days, so damn near a month without any like real football.
Yeah.
I think you might worry about that a bit. Now Mahomes, given the ankle, maybe he gets sat, but maybe the receivers are out there with Wentz for a quarter or two. I don't even think so much to try and win the game, but we've seen, I think of like the Peyton Manning Colts teams that would lock up the 1 seed by a mile, rest some guys, and then like flop in their first playoff game. And whether that had anything to do with the rest.
Yeah, I think that's just more correlation. Like, I don't.
That's fair, but these coaches make a lot of decisions based off correlation.
Which is, but that's stupid. Like Peyton Manning struggled in the playoffs, and I love Peyton Manning, but that was just what he did. It had nothing to do with the one time or the few times that they would sit him or whatever. I don't know. I feel like if I were a head coach, I'm not risking it. I don't believe in that whole thing. The more time I can take off and rest my players and get players healthy, the better. I would have confidence in being a 2-loss team, the talent on my team, and saying you guys are just good to go when you guys are ready to go. Like I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. But it's just weird to me that I can look at as a bye as a positive for my team. Like, well, they're coming off a bye week. That's a big deal. And then the moment I add like 5 days on there, we can't do it. It's a no-go. It was like, we got to play our guys because that extra 5 days, I don't believe it. But NFL head coaches, I've seen a lot of stupid things. I don't know. What's your bold prediction though, Zach?
My bold prediction, I was struggling with this one because I have confidence they might find a way to win, but it has been mucky games recently. I'm not sure how it might materialize. One thing I do feel confident about is that Patrick Surtain is going to author a, I don't know if iconic's the right word, but a big spotlight prime time, I guess not prime time, but island game performance. He'll put Jamar Chase on an island and help bolster his Defensive Player of the Year claim. I'm saying he either holds Jamar Chase under 20 yards in coverage or gets an interception.
Holds specifically Chase?
I'll say Chase and Higgins combined under 25. If you let me knock it up 5 more yards in coverage against Chase or Higgins, no more than 25 total yards or an interception.
I think I saw a stat today where it was like he's only given up in 11 games. He's held guys, any receivers, whoever he's guarding, under like 25 yards. I think I saw that. I don't think this is very bold at all.
All right, what's the number I could get? I'll go.
Let's see. I'm gonna try to find this real quick.
I'll say 20. I'll go with the original number of 20 and keep Higgins in there. No, I'm letting you move the bold again.
Chat, what do you guys think? Pat Surtain has allowed the fewest receiving yards by any quarterback with at least 400 snaps. Okay, we all know that. Where did I see this deal? This is bad of me. But
I did the one stat. I'll buy you some time here. One cool graphic. I think it's amazing. I think CBS Sports posted it. I saw with Patrick Surtain this year that I hope every dang AP voter sees this stat because it should. He should absolutely be the Defensive Player of the Year this year, in my opinion. He has allowed, and he's been targeted a ton. I mean, not a ton, but he's been targeted. It's not like he's one of these guys that's playing like 20 snaps and has 1 target. Outside of like starting quarterbacks, he's the only guy I've ever seen with this stat. He is allowing a lower passer rating when targeted than quarterbacks would have if they just threw the ball away automatically. If quarterbacks were 0 for a million targeting Patrick Surtain this year, that would be an improvement on what, from the quarterback's perspective, on what Surtain's actually allowed. He's allowing like a 39.1 when targeted, and the passer rating of a game that has nothing but incompletions bottoms out at 39.6. So just disgusting what he's done this year. You would be better off throwing the ball into the dirt than targeting Surtain this year, which is amazing. I think he adds another feather in his cap. I'll say 20 yards, Joey, or an interception.
I'll take you on the 20 yards. The stat I saw was Patrick Surtain has allowed just 35 yards or fewer in 11 games this season, which is crazy on
I'm
its
going
own.
20, and this is the best receiving core quarterback combo.
What I said, I'm going to take it.
By a damn mile.
I'm taking it. I'll take you up on this one. I mean, the interception, you're sweetening, or I guess it's just like, yeah. So I'll take that one, Zach. Would it shock me if you were right in this? No. I mean, I could totally see a scenario where the Bengals are just doing everything not to target Surtain. Chase is in motion, moving across the field, design touches for Chase. Like T. Higgins is in the Riley Moss matchup, and they like that a lot more. Like I could see a ton of situations where they're just trying to avoid that side of the field, and they have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase moving him around and getting him into favorable matchups anywhere but. So I could definitely see that. I could see your bet going your way. I'll just end up taking you up on it. Why the hell not? I'm in the lead doing it every week.
You are. You keep making me change my prediction, and now you're up on the lead. I still haven't calculated the Chargers game yet, but it was looking pretty dire heading into the Chargers game. You've got like a 4 or 5 point lead on both Bree and I, and the most points anyone can make up in a single week would be. I guess you could make up more I think you could 6-0 somebody in theory, but it requires a perfect week. Really, you're making up like maybe 3-4 points a week. So Bree and I need you to just absolutely collapse down the stretch and then get on a heater if we're going to win this competition. You're looking like likely back-to-back bold prediction champion.
True. Let's get it. Let's get it back to back. I like the ring of that one, Zach.
Oh wait, no, Bree. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting because it took me 2 years to calculate the 2 years ago one. Didn't you win 2 years ago and then Bree won last year and then you won?
Yeah, Bree won last year.
Yeah, so 2 of 3. Little pocket dynasty there.
Let's go. All right, so here's mine. I think it's a big bounce back week for Bo Nix. This Bengals defense isn't very good. They give up a ton of points. I think somebody in the chat was D Bronx. If this is true, this is a crazy one. Why not? We're potting it. I don't care if it's true or not. Where did it go? There's something about how they haven't. It was a tweet, and of course, if it's a tweet, it's true. Did you see that tweet going around that the Bengals have not beat a quarterback one all season? All their wins are against backups, apparently. I'm buying into that tweet as well right now to go back.
Illustrates the point I'm talking about. Yes, they have these amazing players that have had amazing seasons and are playing really good. In spite of that, the quarterbacks they've beaten this year, Andy Dalton, Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, Gardner Minshew, Cooper Rush, Will Levis, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We're being a little calling Deshaun Watson a backup. I mean, he is, I think, at this point, but he was the starter when that game happened. But still, he was worse than all these guys. He's the worst one of the bunch. If you want to look at his numbers, that guy cannot play football. Those are the guys they've beaten. Come on, show us something, Bo Nix.
Yeah, so I'm going for the second time this entire season. I'm going he's going to have a 300-yard passing performance with at least 2 passing touchdowns on there as well. This has only happened once so far in his career. It's obviously his rookie year, so we could just say this season. Why not gas it up, though? My bet. So 300 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, Zach.
300 yards, 2 passing touchdowns?
300 passing yards. Only happened once this year. 2 passing
touchdowns
on top.
2 passing specifically.
I'm going 300 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns.
I'll take you up on this. And that'll kind of lay me up to talk about what to watch for. I almost went with, but didn't. What is Drew Lock going to look like in the rain? First 4 games of the season looked really rocky for him in general, but we've only seen him in bad weather once. That Jets game, and it looked like he was really struggling to grip the football.
That was a blizzard, though, Doug. We cannot.
It was a tropical storm. It was an extreme example. Aaron Rodgers was bad in it too. I'm aware of these things, but our sample size at this point, and the NFL football is bigger than the college football. So our only sample size of him playing in weather with an NFL football was sorry, I must have meant Bo Nix. I said Drew Lock.
That's so bad, by the way. This is real thoughts. These are like Zach's true thoughts coming out right now.
Don't put that evil on me.
No, it is.
I think he's so much better than Drew Lock ever has been, ever could be. 10 times the quarterback, 10 times the man. Gets me drug tested. Yeah, Drew.
Bo Nix, not Drew Lock.
I know. I'm just trying to refine my place. Bo Nix in the weather is something I think we do need to see, just because we haven't seen it. And yeah, it was a tropical storm that he played in last time, a literal tropical storm. So I don't think it's a great data set, but it is all we have right now. I need to see him be able to grip the football in the rain so I can just assuage that concern, because I haven't been mentioning it on the show all the time.
He played at Oregon. This is my whole thing.
The ball was considerably smaller.
What?
The ball is considerably smaller in college than it is in the NFL.
Sure, but you can go back in college and we can make, like, when I watch Kenny Pickett or I watch some of these quarterbacks, I can tell which quarterbacks are bad in weather games. Have you looked up Bo Nix's hand size? Do you know that?
I think it was smaller at the combine.
No, Bo Nix had big hands.
He did?
Yes. Yeah. I wish I'm asking you what they are. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
10 and an eighth?
Elite. What?
You're right. 10 and an eighth. He was in the 86th percentile.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Played at Oregon, which also include playing in all these other Pac-12 rainy schools. So yeah, we are we're good. I don't believe in this rain deal with them. You know who actually does struggle in rain a little bit is Joe Burrow. That is a fact.
Yes. Well, but wait, it is a fact. It is. That's news to me.
In my brain, it's a fact.
Okay, I'll go with it. I haven't seen that one before, but I will say Joe Burrow, like that whole thing, hasn't had the best playoff type performances. Like, you want to go to that Super Bowl run that really was led by the defense. So yeah, I do think we're going to get a shootout. I hope you're right. I wonder if it comes more on the ground and they just run all over him. It's like what we saw in the first half against the Chargers, but extrapolated over a whole game.
Yeah. So you're taking me up on that, correct? Yeah, Burrow has 9.
Yeah, I'm taking you up on it.
And he doesn't have a great arm. But Burrow is this era's Peyton Manning, like even a little older Peyton Manning. Broncos, when he was lighting it up version of Peyton Manning. He's that era. Like he's that. He doesn't have a great arm at all. Like, really. Like, if you were to put his arm talent, and I'm just talking about strength in particular, like Burrow's arm is weak. He just throws the ball so well with anticipation, accuracy, puts it where the ball needs to be, that it makes up for it. He's an outlier in that department. So, yeah. What is Bree's bold?
Bree Herbold is kind of hitting on that rushing point I just talked about. Audric Estime will be the leading rusher for the Denver Broncos and will rush for a touchdown. So most rushing yards of any Broncos player in this game, and rushing touchdown.
I'm not taking Bree up on this one, Zach. I agree with Bree. I would be shocked. I think Audric Estime should be their leading carrier this week. I mean, what is the argument for anybody else right now? What's the argument? Someone has to give me the argument to say anybody else should be getting the majority of the carries here. The Broncos' run game has been bad pretty much this entire year. This is the time where it's just like, how much worse can it get? And then you also just saw it have a lot of success the week before with Audric Estime. You're playing him and he's getting the most. I wouldn't be shocked to see him get a touchdown either. So I'm not taking Bree up on this bet. I agree with her.
Man, I think I'm going to fade her on it. I still don't fully trust the Broncos to commit to sorry, a little slip there. To Estime, you got Beatty coming back this week. Maybe you got McLaughlin coming back this week. And then it seems like they can't quit Javonte for whatever dumb reason. So, and then also the touchdown on top of that. As you always say, Joey, once people start adding things onto it, you got to take them up. So I'm going to take Bree up on this one.
Really? It's just the touchdown? Because what's the likelihood in your brain that Estime gets the most amount of attempts? Like I would say
not most amount of
majority
attempts, but
percentage.
most amount of yards. I mean, I guess if he gets the most attempts, he's probably getting the most yards. I'd
Yeah.
say probably about 50-50, maybe I've probably a little less than 50-50, 40-60.
Really? I would go like I'm thinking like 70% Otter Guessman leads the team in rushing.
Here's where I'm coming from. I think it's been obvious since the first Chargers game that he was like better than Javonte.
Yeah, but that was when he was
Javonte
fumbling. Like I get it.
Fair, but he hasn't had that problem in a long time since. And they still
Eventually.
like every time he carries the ball, it's like, oh, that's their best runner of the football. So I don't believe they'll commit to him. I think they should. I think he should 100% be the team's leading rusher and probably rush for a touchdown. I don't know if they'll commit to it, or to him, I should say. And then the anytime touchdown, like what are his anytime touchdown odds? Probably like plus 200 on the high, on like, a favorable end for Bree. So that plus him probably needing 60, 70 rushing yards. I'll take her up on that.
All right, fair enough. This is the time, guys, where you come in and give us your bold predictions. If you guys have a bold prediction, make sure you're leaving in the comment section. Roe, he or she has one in here. Bold prediction: defense has a 5-sack game. Bonito reinserts himself as the DPOY in the DPOY talk. What do you think?
I mean, this would be a great spot for it. You're going against someone who's directly competing with Nick Bonito. Trey Hendrickson, he's not going to win because they don't have the record, but he might get the sack king title. Bo Nix is going to mitigate sacks on that side. We know that much. If Bonito's able to get 2-3 sacks, that'll help him close the gap. This is going to be a game the whole nation is watching. And it's Joe Burrow. Like, sacking him matters. He's I feel bad for Bonito because this stretch, he'll probably get Wentz the last game of the season. But if he doesn't, if he gets Mahomes, this stretch of Richardson, Herbert, Burrow, and then maybe Mahomes is about as tough of a 4-game stretch as a player can have for trying to rack up sack totals. So if he's able to get some good sacks on Joe Burrow, he definitely reinsert himself in the DPOY talk. I'll take up Roport on this one though, because he's really hard to sack. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll end up taking him on this too for a lot of the same reasons. And also, like, I wish someone like Bonito would get in for real these DPOY talks. I mean, when you look at the production this year, the production stats are all there for him. And especially when you start including the pick sixes. I've said this a bunch of times on the show, though. I just don't know if he's a big enough name to beat out other guys. And it's very much a narrative award. What's that, Zach?
Little odds update. TJ Watt still the favorite at minus 200.
Yeah.
Surtain following him up at 350, and then Bonito is third everywhere. Pretty cool. You got 2 of the top 3. You can get him anywhere between plus 1,000 to plus 1,400. So he's a distant long shot. To your point about name brand, would he be able to get over the top? But cool to see him at least in third right now still.
Yeah, no, absolutely. LTB Muse, bold prediction. LTB goes live on Facebook for the first time in forever after this game. We do need to set that up.
I need to. That and a Twitch. I've been meaning to set up a Twitch, y'all, and not.
I don't feel like our audience are Twitch people, but maybe let us know if you guys will watch us on Twitch.
New audience, Joey.
Well, where are they? I don't how do you discover people on Twitch?
I don't know a thing about it. Maybe it's a bad idea.
Let us know. Bold prediction. This goes exactly our conversation earlier. D Bronx. Bold predictions. Javonte plays less than 40% of the snaps. I agree. I don't even know. I wouldn't take you up on this because I think that might be the case. I think that. I mean, we've seen it phased out. Like when it wasn't Estime, and Blake Watson this last week was Jaleel McLaughlin the 2 weeks prior to that. And he's saying play 40%. I think just. You're seeing the start to phase that part out. I think they're looking at him more as on passing downs. He's our best blocker, and he's also probably our best receiver.
Yeah, I would agree.
You agree? All right, cool.
Every now and then you get one right, Joey. What can I say?
Ro wants to know if Court goes over 1,000 this week. I think that's interesting. Do you have the stats? How far is he off?
I should have been getting that ready. My bad. Cortland Sutton on the season, he's got to be dang close. After that run, he went on 928, so he would need 72. I think he gets there this week. He was on such a roll, like that's what he was averaging for a month and a half there. If Bo Nix is gonna, like I said, they kind of need him to go back to what he looked like against the Falcons and the Chiefs and the Panthers and on the Raiders too, where he was willing to rip some of those intermediate to downfield throws to Sutton on like those digs. If he's willing to go back to that, I think, yeah, he should for sure. Even against the Chargers or the Colts, which were disappointing games, he had 50 yards and 32 yards respectively. So I think there's a pretty good chance he gets there.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you, Ro, on this one. I do think, or not even agree. I just think that he's going over 1,000 this week. If my bold prediction is that Bo Nix throws for 300 yards in this game, I have to imagine at least 70 of that is going to Cortland Sutton. So, I think he does go over that. T Bronx is wondering if Gen Z kids don't know Twitch. Who does? Listen. I know Twitch. I just have never know anything. Like, how is discovery on there? How does that work? How do you find Twitch streamers? It's very confusing. I don't know. Mike comes in. Bold. Bo Nix is the Broncos' leading rusher. What do you guys say this next week?
I kind of think he will be. Too. I would stay away from this. Because it's happened so frequently. I don't know. The Bengals run defense is so bad. They should be able to get someone ahead of him. I'd probably take Mike up on this, but I could see it because it's happened so many times this season. And even against bad run defenses like the Colts. I don't know. Wasn't he their leading rusher in that game? It's one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. I think the Bengals are the only team with the worst run defense this season.
So you don't think you are not picking up any information from this Chargers game, and you don't think that is any indication of where they go from this?
I mean, I think there's some lessons to take from it for sure. I also don't fully trust them. I mean, I don't know. You have a good point about how Estime. Well, actually, he got some good carries early, but I think Javonte still had over 50% of the snaps.
And my boy was fumbling. He was a fumbler.
He hasn't been for like a couple months.
And at that point, Javonte wasn't consistently having like literally yard games where it was like -1 yard, leave that game, playing the majority of the snaps, by the way. All right, he got 5. Oh, wow, he got 3 yards this game. Like, that's how it's been since.
Audric Estime hasn't fumbled the ball.
Fumbled in preseason and in the regular season.
10-17. Well, he had 1 fumble in the I mean, I don't know. At this point, like, then why are they giving him the ball? If that's the concern, and that's the reason you're not giving him more carries than Javonte, why are his carries coming in the fourth quarter when they're trying to salt the game away? Isn't that the point?
I just told you. It's because Javonte has been having games where you just got to deal with the fumbles if he fumbles. At that point, it didn't look like it. Now, Javonte is out here -1 yard. Finished the game, leading the team in attempts. All right, he had 2. He had 5 yards. Oh, he got a 1 yard this game. Like, Javonte has forced the Broncos' hand to have to play Blake Watson in meaningful snaps. Like, that's where we are. We're in a different realm now. That's what we aren't realizing here, is that Blake Watson is getting serious snaps as a Bronco. A lot of that is just because Javonte Williams has played so poorly. The run game has been so bad.
I think it's also that Jaleel McLaughlin was hurt. And they were like, oh, all these carries that have been going to Jaleel, we got to give those to someone. Because it's not like Javonte Williams' carries took a big dive last week. And that's after, all these 1, 2, 3 yard performances you're talking about. So that's why I'm hesitant to believe it. I really hope you're right, though. His numbers are down. I take that back. 4 attempts. Javonte Williams averaged 6 yards per carry. That's a funny fact.
Fun fact. Well, guys, let's go. What is your score prediction? Everybody give us your score prediction in the chat. Zach, go ahead.
Score. Oh, wait. Do we have to? No, we did Breeze Bold. Okay, my bad. Yeah, my score prediction in this one. Oh man, I think the defense bounces back, but it's still a very talented offense. They'll probably get to 24ish points. I'll say the Broncos get 28. I'll say 28-24. I like that number.
Zach, I'm having a hard. Are you pandering right now? I got to interview you. This is
Am I pandering? No, I mean in our score prediction competition,
I feel like it's been a lot of I'm scared this game. It's been a lot of the Broncos. I don't believe in their running game. Yes. You took me up. Bo Nix won't pass for 300 yards. You took me up on that too. Yes. How do the Broncos win this game if all that is true?
Because the best quarterback the Bengals have beaten this season is Andy Dalton. I mean, they find a way to lose these games, and I'm scared about it. It's a big spot, but ultimately, and I really don't know what form it's going to take. I have some questions about the defense. Is this going to be a shootout? I have some questions about the offense. Is this a game where the defense really bounces back and it's a lower scoring game for the Bengals, and the offense does just enough to win it? I really don't. Is it leaning on the run game? Is it Bo Nix having a shootout with Joe Burrow? I really don't have a confident way on like the script this game will follow. I am fairly confident that the Broncos will win, though, just because I think the Bengals are kind of losers this year. I think they find a way to lose games. I mean, Joe Burrow is, damn near having the best. He would be in the conversation with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who are having bonkers seasons. And yet he's not, because this team keeps finding a way to lose. And Joe Burrow's part of that. There's been a number of opportunities this season for him to have fourth quarter game-winning drives where he's gone 3 and out, or they've gotten to the 50 and the offense has stalled out and failed on a fourth down. There's, I think, 3 such games. Those 3 games go differently. The Broncos are having to catch them. So I don't know. I think the Bengals are a flawed team that and finds ways to lose games. The Broncos are a team that finds a way to consistently beat flawed teams. So I'm rolling with the Broncos 28-24.
Fair enough. Let's get into some of these other these other score predictions. LTB Muse, he has 17-9, low scoring game there. Paul is 21-17 Broncos. Mike, he comes in 27-24, but Cincy, he has winning this game. Samuel Castro, Broncos win 31-27. Browntown 32-27, Broncos winning. Jordan Davis, 31-24 Broncos. Yeah. So most of the chat, I mean, it's not shocking, has the Broncos winning this game. I feel like I'm more in the boat with LTB Muse. I don't have that, and Paul. I don't have it as a super high scoring game. I'm going 24-21 Broncos. I think this defense is going to be better than people realize. I think that I don't think people are putting enough stock into that. The Broncos, when they were super successful, were running a shit ton of man coverage and blitzed it a lot because they had corners they trusted on the outside. And for the first week, they're going to be able to have that back, and it's going to be a different dimension to this Broncos team. They're going to be able to run the stuff where they had success early. So I have the Broncos winning this, and I also think that they're just going to be just more successful doing it. So what is Bree's score prediction, Zach?
Bree's score prediction is 30-27, the Broncos winning. Almost identical to whose? Browntown's or Samuel Castro's. Pretty much right in there. So 30-27, Broncos win for Bree. We're on the Broncos again.
Yeah, I know. Someone's going to have to change it up. I can't take the criticisms if we all pick the Broncos on that damn graphic that we post on Twitter again.
Man, but here's my thing.
I might be the one that does it.
The Broncos are undefeated in games where we have the LTB sweep.
No, this last week we did that.
Nope, Frankie picked the Chargers.
Did he really?
He picked the Chargers.
It's a Frankie pick.
So it's Frankie's fault, everybody. At Frankie's Film.
Yeah, okay. There we go. All right. Oh, I didn't know that. I wonder what happens if we all go sweep on the other team. Have we totaled those up yet?
We haven't. We were close to. We haven't gone all sweep. We were close to on the Bucks game. A little peek behind the curtain here. We were really close to on the Bucks game. And to what you're saying, I was like, we're not dealing with the Twitter backlash on this graphic. We are a Broncos podcast. We can't have everyone picking the damn Buccaneers. So I told Carter, no, change mine. I'm picking the Broncos. And then Carter flipped to follow me. And it's because of that, really, we've been in first place this whole time. So faith in the Broncos, that's what it gets you, everybody.
Yeah, the first time we did that, where it was like just a sweep, we got so much backlash on that.
Yeah, and then they won.
Everyone at the Broncos, they were on us like, oh, there we go. There's a loss up. Like they were on their quote tweeting it. Like it was just foregone. Like we just lost the game because we posted it. So yeah, I don't know. But we've had success with it. I don't know. We have to change the tune. But everybody, thank you for joining tonight. Hell of a show. We're happy to be back. I hope everybody in the chat had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you guys spent time with your family. That's something I encourage everybody to go do. Make sure you guys are spending time with family because you don't know. You'll regret it one day if you don't. So holidays, make sure you do that. But until next time, guys, go Broncos.
Go Broncos. Merry Christmas.